Welcome to Before You Cut Bangs. I'm Laura Quick.
And I'm Claire Fearman.
I am a professional storyteller and I'm writing my first book.
And I'm a therapist, but not your therapist. Full disclaimer, take what you like, leave the rest. Laura's ready to rip a Band-Aid off, and I'm going to be here with her because she's dating the male version of me, and nothing thrills me more.
Yep, I think it's the universe.
Do you want to lower your shoulders? You seem nervous.
I'm fine. I'm not nervous. I'm fine. I do think that it is the universe's way of telling me that I still have work to do, that I'm surrounded by
clinicians,
literally. I am indeed dating a therapist who is the male version of Claire.
In so many ways.
I mean, I wouldn't see it. I wouldn't expect anything else, right?
It really works.
I think I've finally figured this out.
What's the story? I don't know what's going on here.
Okay. Well, so what's funny, and I'll let obviously Laura tell her story, but we were at a dinner one night and someone was like, I'll give the abbreviated version of this, but someone was like, this guy, and it was somebody's brother that it was at the table. And I was like, if I was single, I'd be all over this guy, like a runner and a therapist. And then Laura, somewhere in her subconscious mind, was like, I'll be all over that. Noted.
Maybe you inspired it. Maybe I didn't know, but you inspired it. I will say,
our safety, I was like, this is good and true and fine. And so your unconscious mind was like, remember this person.
The guy was there? Someone was just describing.
No. Someone was like,
there was some thirst trapping, I think, that we were all kind of talking about.
I remember what someone was like, my brother is a therapist and a trail runner. And it was the night before I had a race. That's what it was. And I was prepping for a race, so I couldn't stay late. And then she's like, look at this guy. I'm like, well, would you look at him? You know, that's crazy.
It's just a whole table of girls, all the women that I basically love a ton. And one of the girls is one of my best friends. Her name's Jessica. And we met in a small town. So we didn't know anybody. Neither one of us were from Coleman. And we became like fast friends. And it's funny because looking back at that, one of the reasons Jessica and I became friends is because I invited this group of women that I didn't know to my house for wine. And I think that people do that in passing. Like, I'll have you over for wine sometime, right? When I say that, I really mean it. And
we know.
Oh, and I'm like, there's going
to be a follow-up text.
Conversation cards on the table when you arrive. And I'm just kidding. Well, not
no,
really.
You're not.
I know. I'm sorry. But I followed up. And Jessica was like, in all the years that I've lived here, and she had lived there for much longer, no one's ever really followed up on something like that. I really love that about you. And so she and I became close. Even though I had that whole group of women over, we stayed really close. And so she and I had been best friends for 5.5, almost 6 years when this conversation at the table was happening. And backstory, she's had this brother her whole life. He's older than her, obviously. But I'd only met him twice, and he didn't make eye contact or talk to me either one of those times.
And might I add, that's probably good.
No, totally good. It was great. I remember when he became a licensed therapist, and I was like, oh my God, we were at a pool party, and I was like, therapy, that's kind of my thing. I mean, I've needed a lot of it. You're doing it now. And he was just like, I do not want to talk to you at all. And I was like, cool, your brother seems nice. But we didn't talk. And then there's this thirst trap conversation where Claire's like, look at that guy. And everybody was kind of like, he seems so great. Well, about not too long after that, I decided to go on a hike. And he had reached out to me about something. He does this thing that I call the morning porn, which is really just where he shows his journal entry.
On social media.
On social media. He shows like what he's like learning about. And
nothing could be hotter to Laura
than
a man journaling, I think.
Literally,
I'm like, I want to see some manual labor.
And I'm like,
and a pickup truck.
I'm sorry. You are thinking intentionally about your day and writing it down and sharing it with people to make them better. Hot. So, the I'm watching the morning porn happen. I ask him about, I'm starting to hike. I'm feeling kind of like I'm in the sad country music song season. I've gone on a trail run or two with Claire and obviously realized I shouldn't do that because I'm so athletic. And he named off like, here's some trails that you should consider if you're going to do solo because they're like high trafficked and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, great, which was probably just my way of making conversation with him, I'm sure. And he was like, hey, and if you don't feel any kind of way about it, I'm happy to join you. And I was like, oh, and I did feel kind of a way about it. So I called Jessica on the way to this hike. And I have a rule. My rule is if I feel like I want to hide something, I always tell one of my tier 1 friends so that they can either say you don't have to tell anybody that.
Listeners, really glue that into your brain. It is one of the best ways to live. If you think you're going to hide something, call a non-judgmental tier 1 who will sit with you in it and tell you the truth if you want it.
Yeah.
And if you don't want it, you get to say, I don't want your feedback, but I'm just going to have to tell you this. Like, don't keep your ickies hidden inside. Tell somebody.
Yeah, and I didn't know if this was an icky. Obviously, I think the big juxtaposition here was I was going through this really hard thing.
Yeah, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think a lot of women can relate to it, and it doesn't have to be in a relationship, but it's like, is this the right timeline? What will so-and-so think? Have I healed enough? Have I done X, Y, and Z to deserve this?
And by the way, this is not a date in any way, like at all.
For sure. So when I say icky, it wasn't about doing something bad or wrong. It was like,
I felt like I wanted to hide it.
yeah,
I felt
there's
like I wanted to hide
pressure
it.
in the world to like be a certain way and do things a certain way.
And so I called Jess on the way and I was like, hey, is it weird that I'm going for a hike with your brother? And she was like, why would that be weird? My brother takes people for hikes all the time. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I went for the hike. 7.77 miles. And
That was out the gate,
out the
7
gate,
miles.
7.7. We just never shut the fuck up. We talked the whole time. It was so great.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies when you're having fun. We talked and talked and talked and talked and listened and just was there, and it was really awesome. And then and it was all to the races. That's what I have to say about that. I mean, it was just
And they all just started dating? That was it?
no. We definitely didn't just start dating. I think I called Jessica after that and was like, I can never be unsupervised with your brother again because I think I might have a crush on him. And this was weird because, again, sad country music song season lasted most of last year. Oh, well, actually, at least a year and a half before the world knew it was lasting. And I think that I felt, like Claire said, really weird about, like, am I allowed to feel happy? Am I allowed to feel excited to spend time with someone? Is this wrong? And, you know, I was divorced and it wasn't, but sometimes we can trick ourselves into thinking. And I think I'd been in a, I don't know, man. It's a tricky thing. Perception has been the thing that I've really struggled with the most and the thing that I've talked to Claire about.
People's perception?
Yeah, I think like this lie that is easy to believe is that people give a shit, that they're watching. Like they actually care about my life and they're like keeping a calendar checklist on how many days have ticked by since she got a divorce. And wow, how dare her be happy or dating someone or whatever.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine anyone. Now, look, I think people could be judgmental, but that's not the same thing in my mind as like caring really about it.
Totally.
Agree. I think you're right.
Or spending any time actually letting that occupy space.
And someone being judgmental, that's something that you should not care about.
Right.
Right. But that's easier said than done. And like I had a concern initially and told Laura very directly that, but we have that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
And that's not judgment. That was like a fear. And
I'm so thankful. And I think it's so funny. Okay, so the best thing that happened is, so my close friends, Claire's obviously one that y'all know very well, but Jessica is Zach's brother. And then
Sister.
Shelly, sister, never correct me, but yes, exactly. Sorry about that. Shelly is my other best friend who lives in Georgia and was at that table the night the thirst trap photo was circulated. And I was like, am I going to go on a hike with him? I didn't know that actually at the time, but subconsciously, clearly. But Shelly called me after about the like 5th time I went on a hike. And she was like, what are we doing? She was like, are we hiking now? Is that what we're doing? We're dating a guy who hikes? Because it feels like we have a crush on this guy who hikes. And I was like, I think I do have a crush on this guy that hikes. And she was like, so like you're going to be with like a hiker? Like that's the plan? You're going to be with a hiker. And I was like, what are you saying? And she's like, does he like live in a van and make hacky sacks? Like he's a hiker. What? Does he live in the mountains? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, I'm just concerned that his job is hiking. And I was like, that's not his job. He's a therapist. And she was like, oh shit, thank God. So that was a really funny moment where she was very concerned that I had just started dating a guy who lived in a van.
Okay, but does he make hacky sacks?
I mean, he did buy Shelly an entire thing of hacky sacks. He doesn't. He doesn't.
But he hacky sacks.
No, he doesn't know
made it sound
anything.
like
it.
No. As a joke, he bought Shelly hacky sacks and started mailing them to her just like one at a time to just like fuck
He's
her.
more, we're erring on the side of like Claire hippie. He's more like CrossFit, bro, in a good way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like hiker. Like he has won ultras. Like won them. He won a Cruel Jewel and several times. And like he's like
Danielle. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm about to say may or may not relate to what you're talking about, but something that I see in relationship post either long-term relationship, whether marriage or not, or post-divorce is this belief, and I've actually seen it in both men and women, that I need to fix something that's wrong with me over a certain amount of time before I'm prepared to enter into a new relationship. It's really common in early recovery from substance use to not date for 365 days, but I guess on day 366 you're cured of anything and can jump right in.
obviously.
So
Love an arbitrary timeline.
I know you do. You'd follow that. You'd be like, well, AA said.
That's right.
And I love it. I'm going to tick down the days. This is what I would say. If you jump into a relationship and have avoided, and I'm talking to the general you, have avoided going through some reality checking, which I've absolutely done, and it's an avoidance of pain, that might be a time to be by yourself. However, there is not a magical prescriptive date of I've done these things, so now I'm the perfect girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, and I can show up perfectly. And because I've said this a million times on this podcast, we are harmed by people. We are harmed in relationship, whether it was a romantic relationship, a sibling relationship, parental, professional. And so the only way to heal from that is to be in healthy, healing relationship, professional, romantic, parental, like whatever it is. The relationship heals the wound. A different relationship heals the wound. And oftentimes we heal that for each other. And we can't go in and be like, my next partner is going to heal these 7 magical things for me. It really comes about naturally in ways that you didn't know. Like if you've been more of an avoidant attacher and you want to move into secure, you've probably partnered with an anxiously attached person and y'all can find security together. And it's really magical. And so if you're listening to this and you're on an arbitrary timeline, or you think you have to be the picture of perfection before engaging in a new relationship or even a new job, like this doesn't have to be looked through the lens of romantic partnership, I would tell you that is a myth. Don't aim for perfection. Like keep walking in your healing journey. And if someone falls into your life, like happened, which is what happened to you, Laura, you get to walk through it. There's no special day. And therapists don't give you or good therapists, we're not giving out certificates of like, you are now prepared to go forth in love. Right. It's not real.
And I think like, I'll just say for me, historically, you know, obviously I've had a couple accidental marriages, and the marriage that ended last year was not an accident. It was something I walked into wildly intentional, really choosing it and believing that it was going to be for the rest of my life. And so I think that when that ended, or when it was ending and unraveling, that was really devastating. But I had a lot of time to process it. And when I look back at the accidental marriages, guys, I really did have a checklist of things I wanted somebody to fix about me. I really thought that I could find like a perfect person to come along and just like fill up these weird things that I couldn't quite figure out on my own, and they would just make them great. And when you've lived long enough and you've made as many mistakes relationally as I have, you start to realize that's not real. And one of the coolest things about dating Zach is that I'm not disillusioned and think he's some perfect person. Like, he's not perfect and I'm not perfect, but the version of healthy he is makes me want to be healthier. And I think that we get to do that for each other. And so like walking alongside and like learning to date again in my 40s, which is real different than my
30s, 20s, teens.
Oh my
all
God,
of it.
so different. And I hear and have these incredible friends who are in their 40s and they're having like on apps and trying to figure out like how to find someone who's not a serial killer and like all the things, and obviously all the things we talked about. If you have not listened to our dating app episode
Way in the beginning,
please
Season
go
1.
listen. It is so funny. But I think like I'm grateful that it happened this way, like someone that was vetted for me before I even got to like go on my first 7.77 mile hike.
So you can, I mean, if you don't want to talk about this, that's fine. But you talked a lot on social media about, I don't think you made amends necessarily, but you kind of pulled the veil off of like, I worked really hard to make things look perfect and it wasn't the reality. Mm-hmm. Will you talk about like, was that a level of denial you had about your own life, or was it a preservation of identity? Like, will you talk about that for people that, what I'm thinking of specifically is, if you've made your life look a certain way, mm-hmm. whether it's in a job mm-hmm. or in a romantic partnership, and you want to change that. I think sometimes because our lives are public now, we stay the same because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to backpedal on this. Or there's real fear in that. And maybe even not social media, but like I have to tell my boss, my coworker, my mom, my mm-hmm. sister that I've changed my mind on this entire thing that I built. Are you open to
Yeah, I mean, I think that I talked a lot about I think out of believing and hope, we tend to err on the side of like, this will get better. Because, and behind the scenes, there's a lot of work going into making it better, right? And so I think the fear of pulling the veil off and having to say like, oh shit, it didn't get better. And actually, like, I talked about this whole idea of marriage being, and which I really want to subscribe to, that if you decide to partner with someone, you go into it believing it's going to be a long-term thing. Like, the hope is death till death do we part. Like, we say that in vows, some of us, not all of us. And for me, that marriage was a death. It just wasn't the kind of death I thought it was going to be. And I fought so hard to protect that. It felt like the most vulnerable thing that I've ever done as a grown-up who's like actually been doing work and trying to live authentically. God, I hate saying that word out loud.
It's okay.
But to then say like, hey guys, I really got this wrong. And I'm sorry if I misled you. I didn't do it on purpose though. I did not. Like, you kind of wake up and you're like, oh shit. Like, I didn't mean to take a group of people with me believing that I had it all figured out, which is kind of how I made my life look. I didn't mean to do that because nobody's got it all figured out. Like, none of us are living perfect lives. I don't care how well you're filtering your shit on social media. That's just not the way that it was. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
You're answering it beautifully.
Yeah.
And I think there's a really nice part about like when we hope and believe in something, the veil's not ready to be lifted yet.
Yeah.
And there's something really hard but really freeing about being awake to the like truth of shit hurts.
And, you know, it's so interesting because I look back at my marriage that ended. And I've had this thought, obviously I'm writing and a bunch of stuff is coming up for me. But like at the end of the day, I think I love that quote, we're all just walking each other home. And I think sometimes you walk as far as you can walk together, and sometimes you just can't walk any further. And that can be really painful and really, really sad. But you cannot replace the good things, but you also can't cling to the good things without also being in reality about the things that just didn't work. And I think that's a really painful thing. And I would be lying if I said I'm not still navigating that.
Of course.
Of course. And I actually think a lot of that stuff might take years and years and years. So if you are a person who's just gotten out of a relationship, whether it was a marriage or even a friend breakup, man, that can be hard, or leaving a job you've been at for a really long time. My encouragement to you would be, one, I'm in therapy every week or every other week. I still need it. I need an unbiased witness. I need somebody to process with. And although I am dating a therapist, he's not my therapist. The same way that Claire is my friend and not my therapist. You might need both, but if you don't have both, this is my question to you. If someone is in a place where a big thing has happened and they've experienced a ton of loss, the veil has been lifted, and it's like, oh, I can't hope anymore, this is over, and they're not in therapy or they can't afford that, what would you recommend to them?
Well, first, most therapists will offer a sliding scale.
Yes, ask about a sliding scale, seriously.
Or Psychology Today will list your insurance. Like if you have health insurance and it's good and it covers mental health, you can do that. But if you just need to process, it is okay if you're not ready for therapy to find a tier 1 person to just walk with and listen to that. The difference is a really good therapist will not only hold the space for you and let you process, but eventually when you have the relationship, they're going to push you forth. That's the difference. And they're going to push you forth with clinical backing. Like, this is why the brain works this way. This is why emotions work this way. Not just a friend that's like, well, what I do, which like it has its place. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
So I would tell you the lie a lot of humans tell ourselves is, I can do this by myself, but we were never made to do it by ourselves. No matter what, from raising children to cooking a meal to going through hard things, like we are creatures of connection. It's harder when it feels exposing, vulnerable, and sad. And like the bubble has to pop or the veil has to be lifted, but that's when we need it the most.
I know. Yeah, so I'm so great. I cannot say enough about my tier 1 friends in this last season, but it's also been really fun to have fun with someone. And I don't know, to go on dates and play an unbelievable amount of Yahtzee. I just don't, I don't know. Yahtzee.
Healing relationship.
Honestly, Scrabble, and I have won more than I've lost recently. You heard that, buddy. It's just no.
And fun fact, I was banned by my mother from playing Yahtzee in high school because me and my friends would get so volatile about it. So we had to put a stop to it.
Well, just keep in mind that's what's going to happen at game night next time. I want to see it.
I will rage. Were you about to say something,
Well,
Wilbur?
just so to be clear, you're not doing this for free therapy.
No. I think there's a younger version of me that maybe would have been like, this is the ticket here. I am messed up, and this guy has answers.
It would have been a bold move.
I would have totally done that. This should fix me up. I've thought it in every other circumstance.
Same. Me too. Just never dated there. I mean, listen, he's the best, though. I'm thankful he's not my therapist because I feel like he could really ninja me.
Okay. See y'all next time.
See you next time.